everyone. Welcome to day 14 of online instruction. I hope you all are staying healthy and safe. So today we're going to talk about solving and graphing inequalities. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of mix together what we did last class with graphing those inequalities with something a little bit of a throwback, solving equations. We're going to treat these inequalities as if there were an equal sign between them and solve them first, and then we're going to graph them. So it's actually pretty cool. So the rules for solving an inequality is the same rules for solving equations. So first you want to isolate that variable. The first thing we're going to be doing is adding or subtracting on both sides. That was a little sloppy. I will fix that by adding or subtracting on both sides of the equation. Then after you add or subtract, then you're going to multiply or divide. Again, just like we did when we were solving equations. You're going to multiply if it's a fraction, and you want to get rid of that denominator. And you're going to divide if we have a constant or a coefficient in front of that x. My apologies. And the goal here is to get the variable by itself. We cannot graph before the variable is alone. So then once you get x is greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to some number, once x is by itself, then we're going to graph, just like we did last lesson. The open circle is when there's no line underneath, so when you have greater than or less than, and you have a closed circle when you have the or equal to underneath, that line underneath. So to solve and graph this, the first thing we want to do is get that x by itself. Switch up the color. We'll do a nice blue. We're going to, first, to get x alone, we're going to add 6 to both sides. Because it's minus 6, the opposite is plus 6. And we get 2x is greater than 4. To get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get x is greater than 2. So now that we have that inequality, we have that x alone, we can graph it. And remember from last time, we're going to put that number 2 smack in the middle of our number line. We're going to go 2 above, and we're going to go 2 below. Then we have to figure out open circle or closed circle. There's no line underneath it, so it's going to be an open circle. The x is on the left side, so we're going to follow the same direction of that inequality. Since it points towards the right, we're going to point our arrow over the numbers on the right. So pick any number the arrow goes over. I pick 4. Is it true that 4 is greater than 2? Yeah. Since that's true, we know we pointed our arrow in the right direction and our inequality is correct. So this next one, I guarantee will make a couple of you cringe just because there's a fraction there. But nothing you can't handle. First we want to do is we want to add 1 to both sides. We're looking to get x alone. So we remove that constant first. So that cancels out the 1. We get x over 3. Keep that less than or equal to. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. A big mistake I always find 7th graders make here is somewhere along the way of solving it, they change this inequality to an equal sign. So make sure you're carrying down the inequality. Now we have to deal with the fraction. To get that x by itself, we need to do the inverse. So this is x divided by 3. The inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. What you do to one side, you do to the other. So the 3's cancel out, and you're left with x is less than or equal to negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Bingo. So now we want to graph it. That negative 9 is going to go smack in the middle of our number line. We're going to go 2 above and 2 below. Remember from last time when we had negatives, the number line, you got to be careful of it. This, going -10, -11, that's not correct. Make sure that, when you have your number line, remember the yellow number line in my classroom. The negatives go in the opposite direction. The further to the right the negative number is, the closer to 0. So now we're going to have a closed circle here because there's a line underneath. And the variables on the left, so we're going to point our arrow the same way as the inequality, which is to the left. Pick any number that the arrow goes over. I pick -11. Is it true that -11 is less than or equal to -9? Yep, so it checks out. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's try this last one. Let's do green. We haven't done, that's a pretty green. Okay, first thing we want to do is subtract 3 from both sides. Looking to get x alone before we graph. So that cancels it out. We get -2x is less than or equal to -8. Get x by itself, we divide by -2. And I'm going to put a big star here because there's something different we're doing in this example than the other example. And that is dividing or multiplying by a negative. The thing is, when you multiply or divide by a negative, that totally cancels out, or that totally changes the way the inequality is. So if it's less than or equal to, it turns into greater than or equal to. -8 divided by -2 is 4. So make sure you flip that inequality when you multiply or divide by a negative. I would show you the reason, but it's a lot better in person. I might confuse you over the video. Just take my word. So we're going to put that 4 smack in the middle. We're going to go 2 above, 2 below. We have 5, 6, and 3 and 2. There's a line underneath, so we shade in that circle. And the variables on the left, so our inequality is going to point the same way as our arrow. We're pointing to the right. And just for precaution, let's pick any number that this inequality goes over. I choose 6. Is it true that 6 is greater than or equal to 4? Yep, so it works. Alrighty guys, good job today. If you have any questions, please reach out. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in a couple days.